Thanks for staying with us here at Real America. Well, big tech billionaire Peter Rex is calling out leadership at other big tech firms and claiming that it sucks. That's his words. He's willing now to fight for the working class. CEO Rex is against the censorship happening by big tech companies that have now hindered conservative voices across the web. Rex said, "My family and my ancestors came from Ireland, where, as Catholics, they were held down. And I'm seeing this kind of censorship and holding people down now, trying to hold the working class down. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm going to stand by them, and I'm going to fight for them." Good for him. I believe he has also decided to move his firm from the West Coast to Texas. A little bit better taxes and more friendly for a conservative-based company. Joining me now here on the show, a social media influencer that's weighing in on big tech's suppression of conservative voices. It's happened to her, I'm sure. Krystal, Tini, how you doing? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be with you guys.
So I've been tracking you now for a couple of weeks. You're friends with a lot of folks that we've had on this show that are conservative social media influencers out there. And it seems every time I have one of them on, I don't care if it's David Harris Jr., if it's DC Drano, if it's the Hodge twins, they've all gone under some sort of social media censorship. Whether it is they're changing the algorithm so people aren't seeing your content, Krystal, or they're shutting down your pages right out, or they're putting warnings about the election on. They're doing something to hinder conservative voices. What have you seen when it comes to your posts?
I'm laughing as you're saying this because every single thing that you've mentioned has happened to me. Just a week and a half ago, I was deplatformed for a week off of Instagram, never had any violations, never had anything like that happen. But also a couple days before that, my Facebook was permanently deactivated. I was never in Facebook jail. I've never had anything like that happen. And my brother and another friend had a conservative page group that we ran, and they deleted all the moderators, which I myself was one of them, from Facebook completely. No warnings, no nothing. It was a conservative page that talked about the neighborhoods in Philadelphia, completely just deplatformed. So that has happened. And then once again with my Instagram was deplatformed. But before that, I have 146,000 followers. My videos would get 5,000, 10,000 views at most, when before I was getting 100,000 views, 200,000 views. So all of a sudden it just kind of went to crap. And it's so infuriating because we just want to speak our mind and be able to have the same equalities as everyone else regarding social media.
Yeah, you know, it's very telling. I don't know if you could hear that story I read right before your intro, but it's very telling when you have a CEO of a massive company like Rex come out and literally admit and say, this is happening. Big tech companies are censoring people, and this is just like Catholics being censored years ago with his ancestors in a foreign land. So, I mean, what's it going to take for people to actually stand up? Because everyone, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, who you vote for, we should all, as Americans, be frightened and be very mad that social media giants like Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, which is pretty much Dorsey and Zuckerberg, have decided to silence our voices, because one day it could happen to the other folks.
Yeah, but it's not affecting them right now, so they don't really care. And that's the sad part, is a lot of things aren't affecting them. So they're watching us, go down to our demise, and they're just kind of laughing because they're quote unquote getting their way of things right now. And it's very unfair and very unfortunate that we are being silenced, and the other side has no repercussions for anything that they do. They're inciting violence and all these other kind of things when, Q was deplatformed from everything, and it said they incite violence and things like that. And there's no evidence at all of that.
Yeah. Krystal, what's your advice to folks out there, whether they're regular Americans that are trying to post that are conservatives or Trump supporters, or if they are a social media influencer like you? Do you have any tricks you've been doing to try and keep your messages out there and going, and your faces, or your pages rather, online? How do you do it?
Well, my message from the beginning has been very much in your face, and I think people like and appreciate that. So that's kind of been the selling point of my platform. I've always been a loudmouth. I've always stood up for the underdog. And I encourage people on my platform to do the same thing. There's no reason why you shouldn't stand in your power and in your voice to allow yourself to be heard of what's going on, because what's happening today in our country as well as around the world is not okay for anyone. And I encourage people to stand up and don't back down to anyone.
You got it. We're almost out of time there. Wrap me up, Krystal, but real quick, I know that you went to the Million MAGA March in D.C. last weekend. Thanks for the shout out online, by the way. I want you to real quickly, if you can, 20, 30 seconds, tell folks it was peaceful, everything was fine, and then what happened? Because the mainstream media this entire week has not covered anything about the attacks from Antifa and BLM protesters on the peaceful Trump supporters. What did you see when you were there?
Yes, I still can't get over that part. It was the most magical day that I've had as an American citizen. Insanely patriotic, beautiful day. Everyone was unified. And then when the sun went down is when all hell broke loose. And I had already left Washington, D.C. at that point, and we were starting to see in our newsfeed, Washington, D.C. is like a war zone. And we were so confused because it was an amazingly magical day. And it turned into, innocent people just being attacked, children, elderly people. I couldn't believe my eyes, and I'm just so disgusted with what America has become right now, and there's no repercussions anywhere in sight, and that's starting to really bother me.
Well, thank you for your fair and accurate account of what you saw. Stay safe, because I would assume being a female and having your voice out there can be a little scary sometimes. You probably receive your fair share of threats. So be safe, but thanks for having a voice and standing up.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Krystal, take care. Don't go away. When we come back, it's time to get real.